Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. Is the DepEd equipped to prevent bullying in the nation's schools? Increasing incidents of bullying have prompted the Senate Basic Education Committee to look into this. As one senator noted, bullying cases are now getting more violent.
And will more eruptions follow Kanlaon volcano's explosive eruption this morning? We'll get updates from FIVOX as well as in areas affected by potentially hazardous ash fall and lahar flow.
And another international lawyer has been tapped to be part of former President Rodrigo Duterte's defense team. Who is attorney Dov Jacobs and what does he bring to Duterte's case before the ICC?
In 2022 PISA, let me just flash on the screen. Ito yung pangalawang PISA na kinuha natin. Tayo pa rin ang tinaguri ang pinaka-bullying capital of the world.
We begin with the explosive eruption of Mount Kanlaon in Negros this morning that lasted almost an hour. The volcano became restive at 5:51 in the morning. Its eruption generating a massive ash plume and gases at the height of 4,000 meters. Winds carried the plume southwest.
Now, communities around the volcano have been advised to watch out for potential hazards. Monitoring systems of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or FIVOX, have detected pyroclastic flows. Now, these are volcanic debris, ash, and hot gas moving closer to the ground from Kanlaon's southern slopes.
Nevertheless, Kanlaon remains on alert level 3. This means heightened unrest with possible eruptions in the coming hours, days, or weeks. FIVOX has described Kanlaon's eruption today as moderate compared to explosions in the past.
Now let's get an update on Kanlaon volcano from FIVOX Director Teresito Bacolcol. Katoto, give us po the latest on Mount Kanlaon, any activities between its eruption earlier today and this evening?
Okay, so after its eruption this morning, nasundan ito na isang ash emission activity that reached as high as 75 meters. It lasted only for 21 minutes. It happened between 1:11 p.m. to 1:32 p.m. But so far, we have not noticed any uptick or increase in our monitored parameters for now.
So you classify, even if the visuals look frightening, this is still considered a moderate eruption.
That's right. It's not as strong as the December 9 eruption and the June 3 eruption. Nakikita natin dito malakas but only at the onset. What makes this different from the previous eruptions is that it lasted almost an hour, while the stronger ones, last December 4, or December 9, it lasted around 4 minutes, and then the June 3 eruption with yung plume height niya reached as high as 5 kilometers, only lasted 6 minutes.
But what can we expect in the coming days and months ahead?
We may expect similar short-lived explosions. Actually, what we saw this morning is a repeat of what we have seen last December 9. So halos pareho yung ash column, umabot ng 4 kilometers. And again, we may expect similar short-lived explosive eruptions in the next coming days.
Okay. We did not see magma, no, or yung parang hot lava coming out of the caldera, Katoto. Pero is that really the case? And can we get a little bit technical and can you tell us a bit more about what an explosive eruption really is? And kumbaga nasa ang level ito in terms of the types of eruptions that could disrupt daily life?
Yung explosive eruption is a type of volcanic eruption that is highly violent and powerful. This is produced by the rapid release of gas and pressure from magma beneath the volcano. So may kasamang ash column, gases, and ashes, pati na rin pyroclastic density currents, which we've seen this morning. walang magmang lumabas. Yan talaga ang characteristic ng Kanlaon volcano. So far, based on its historical eruptions, isang beses lamang naglabas ng magma similar to what we are seeing in Mayon volcano. Isang beses lamang, that was in 1902. So afterwards, yung eruption ng Kanlaon volcano would be more on phreatic eruption and phreatomagmatic eruption.
Having said that, nabanggit nga sa mga reports no, na pa-southwest yung ihip ng hangin, which areas will be hit or were hit by all this ash flows?
There were reports of ashfall sa may La Castellana. Some barangays in La Castellana nagkaroon ng ashfall. Sa La Carlota City also and in Bago City. So mostly yung mga cities and areas on the western side and the southwestern side.
And Katoto, before the eruption today, there were actually 14 volcanic earthquakes recorded yesterday. So is that kind of the data that you look at to predict potential eruptions? And as you mentioned earlier, no, the eruption today was very similar to the one that happened last December. So how does FIVOX analyze these patterns to predict potential eruptions?
Okay, so ang nakikita natin dito, like what we saw last December 9, bago ito pumutok, bumaba yung sulfur dioxide. So on December 8, bumaba to 1,699 tons per day of sulfur dioxide. Similar to what we saw yesterday sa Kanlaon volcano, nasa 1,655 tons per day. And on April 6, mas mababa pa ito, nasa 1,419 tons per day. So this means na may pressure na naiipon sa ilalim dahil hindi makalabas yung volcanic gases. And eventually, because over pressurization, sumabog yung vulkan. So we're actually using sulfur dioxide kapag biglang bumagsak yung sulfur dioxide and biglang bumaba yung number of earthquakes. In fact, 2 days ago, 2 volcanic earthquakes lamang yung naitala natin. And wala rin tayo for the past 2 days, wala rin po tayong ash emission activity. So ibig sabihin, nabarahan yung conduit ng vulkan. And isa yan sa mga tinitingnan natin na magiging parameter natin for saying na baka magkaroon ng isang explosive eruption.
And sir, itong short-lived explosive eruptions na you are warning the residents nearby, ano po ba exactly yon? And what are the potential risks of that?
Okay, so again, yung short-lived explosive eruption, again, this is a type of volcanic eruption that is highly violent and powerful. When we say short-lived, it only would last for several minutes. But again, compared to the like what we saw last December 9, it only lasted for 4 minutes, and then yung June 3 that it lasted for which lasted for 6 minutes. Dito short-lived kasi po several minutes lamang.
I know may a certain degree of unpredictability when it comes to this, but I also know FIVOX has state-of-the-art equipment, yun nga, to monitor ground shakes and the chemicals inside the volcanoes. Pero kind of loose, I won't hold you to this, no, Katoto, pero mga how long can we expect this activity to continue? And yung medyo ganitong na nasa moderate or medyo malakas yung mga blasts, pyroclastic blasts?
Hindi talaga natin masasabi until when this will continue. Again, it's the volcano that controls its timeline. So again, titingnan natin, we do the analysis on a day-to-day basis based on the monitored parameters that we are looking.
Katoto, what would you advise the population around Kanlaon, especially since the DSWD last night said that the rise in hunger is attributed to somehow the effect of Kanlaon and the populace in Negros?
Okay, as much as we want to lower the alert level from alert level 3 to alert level 2 para naman makabalik yung mga kababayan natin who are already staying for several months in evacuation centers. Pero again, based on our scientific data, hindi pa rin po namin ito pwedeng ibaba. So again, advice po namin sa kanila that they have to be maging patient. And again, as we've said, hindi po natin control yung behavior ng Kanlaon volcano.
Okay, since there's no timeline, as you're saying. Would you advise na parang permanent na ang relocation? I mean, they can't be putting their lives on hold.
Yes, actually, yun yung iniisip ng mga LGUs. Kasi kami naman, we only recommend, it's actually the LGUs that would put into action yung recommendations namin.
Would you know
So
also-
actually, they're also looking for permanent evacuation centers. Isa yan sa mga kinoconsider ng LGUs.
And the distance from the volcano would be the radius po na kailangan na you would recommend based on scientific data na kailangan na pong lumipat na permanently.
Well, again, dapat walang tao inside the 4-kilometer permit. That's the permanent danger zone. And we expand the danger zone based on the activity of the Kanlaon volcano. And right now, again, we're looking at permanent evacuation centers na wala po sa hazardous areas. Kasi po, hindi naman, even though it's outside the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone, kung pwede namang pwede magkaroon ng lahar. So we have to discount that option.
So mga
So again,
6 kilometers.
we're helping the LGUs look for permanent evacuation centers.
And we're talking of what size of population po?
Right now, yung nasa evacuation centers are more than 40,000. So again, may kanya-kanyang strategies yung mga LGUs natin on how to manage these 40,000 evacuees.
And just to clarify, itong 40,000 evacuees, sila yung mga, were they inside the permanent danger zone or just right outside of it? Would you know?
Outside the permanent danger zone, sila yung nakatira between 4 to 6 kilometers.
Okay.
And sir, well, Mount Kanlaon is just, one of 24 active volcanoes in the Philippines. So right now, is PHIVOX also monitoring any other volcanic activity in other parts of the country?
Yes, we have 2 other volcanoes na may alert level. It's Taal Volcano and Mayon Volcano. So for Taal Volcano, again, for the past 2 days, since April 6, wala tayong record na volcanic earthquake. And right now, Taal Volcano is on alert level 1. For Mayon Volcano, wala rin tayong register na volcanic earthquake for the past 3 days. And same with Taal Volcano, nasa alert level 1 pa rin ang Mayon Volcano. For the rest of, we have 24 active volcanoes. So out of the 24 active volcanoes, 3 ang may alert levels. The rest nasa alert level 0.
All right, marami pong salamat. Thank you for joining the Big Story. PHIVOX Director Teresito Bacolcol. In other news, some communities around the Kanlaon volcano have experienced ash fall from the eruption, including the city that bears its name. Let's check the situation over at Kanlaon City with their Public Information Officer, Ms. Edna Lu Masicampo. Magandang gabi po sa inyo, Ma'am Edna. Ano po ang sitwasyon sa ngayon?
Good evening po, Ma'am Ces Oreña-Drilon and also Ma'am Shawn Yao and Miss Pauline. Can you hear me well po ba?
Yes, very much.
Okay,
Go ahead po.
sige. Kasi dito sa amin is unstable yung internet. But
Maganda po ang
thankfully,
dating ninyo. Very clear.
Okay po. Sige po. Currently, we're all okay here sa Kanlaon City. Nagpanic lang when the eruption happened, but thankfully, no recorded injuries took place. And mayroon lang din classes and work, no suspension. And ashfall-wise, only near the crater, but the ash drifted po southwest, affecting cities in Negros Occidental. Kasi nandito kami sa oriental na side. But our dilemma is the fire near the crater. But right now, umulan dito. So, nag-lower down yung grass fire. But sa aming live feed ngayon, may usok pa rin siya na makikita. And we are currently assessing the immediate needs of our evacuees that are from the December 9 eruption. Kasi until now, mayroon pa kaming 837 families na nasa loob ng evacuation centers.
So, wala naman pong ash na nahirapan po, na nagdulot ng kahirapan huminga or kaya pangangate?
Yes po, dito sa Kanlaon City is wala pong reported na ash fall po.
Okay, we just kakakausap lang po namin sa head ng FIVOLCS na sinasabing ang rekomendasyon ay maaring permanente na po na relocation for evacuees, especially that you're saying there are 800 po ba?
837
Yes,
families.
830 families.
Yes. So, is that being discussed in Kanlaon?
Yes po, it's part of our plan to purchase a land area po for the relocation site of the evacuees. It's located 13 kilometers away po sa crater ng Volcano po, and right now it is assessed as well from the Office of the Civil Defense po, and it's located po sa isang barangay na pinaka-safe po sa Kanlaon City, sa Barangay Binalbagan.
And they're open, the families are open to moving there permanently.
Hindi pa po yan na-discuss sa mga residents po for now kasi inassess pa po yung area if qualified siya for the relocation site.
Ms. Masicampo, I was wondering, no, itong 837 families ninyo, roughly ilan pong katao yan? How many individuals does that translate to? I'm also wondering if lahat sila, no, since December pa talaga nandyan, or may nadagdagan ba from today's activity?
Hindi po nadagdagan from today's activity ang aming evacuee. So ang 837 families is equivalent siya sa 2,643 individuals po.
Pero ma'am, kamusta naman po yung lagay nila? Because if December pa po sila nandun, that will be 4 months already na nakatira po sila sa evacuation center. So ano po yung mga needs nila? May mga reklamo na po ba sila habang nasa evacuation center?
Yes, for tomorrow po magfo 4 months na po sila sa loob ng evacuation centers namin. But thankfully po, the LGU is very proactive when it comes to their needs. Relief operations is being given to them, and also cash assistance from TUPAD, AX, and we also have a very generous donor from Care Philippines who also extended cash aid for them. Sa TUPAD, naka-receive sila ng 5,000, sa AX 5,000 din, and also from Care Philippines 4,200. But right now, mayroon pa rin silang mga needs, kagaya ng mga gatas, kape, diapers for adults and children as well. And also mga hygiene kits, kagaya ng soap, mga shampoo, alcohol.
Livelihood nila, are they mostly magsasaka? Are they like what are, may ganun ba? May commonality ba amongst the population that's in the evacuation center?
Yes po, most of our evacuees here are farmers because Kanlaon City is an agricultural city. It is the vegetable basket of our province, sa Negros Oriental. So kadalasan sa kanila ay may farm talaga, no, na part of their livelihood. So yan yung challenging na part sa kanila kasi during window time, inaalaw sila na makapasok sa loob ng 6 km, at pagkatapos ng window time around 5 p.m. uuwi sila pabalik ng evacuation center. But today, nasuspended po yung window time nila.
And hindi ba apektado yung mismong farms nila? Yung pinupuntahan nila, yung mga tanim nila ay nalagyan ba ng mga abo or chemical from the eruption?
Yes, since June 3, we're still on the alert level, state of calamity yung city namin. So, affected talaga yung farms nila. Oo, but we're thankful that the Department of Agriculture are also very helpful sa mga assistance for the farmers, na may mga aids din sila na pinapadala para sa kanila, like fertilizers, mga hybrid seeds, and also financial assistance po.
Edna, yung paglilipatan ba ng mga evacuees na permanente na tinitignan, may mga lugar na pwede sila magsaka? Maari ba sila magsaka doon?
Sa relocation site po nila, it was arranged by our city mayor na it will be their home. permanent home. But when it comes to their livelihood, pwede lang silang pumunta doon for, like for example right now, sa window time. Oo.
So medyo
Pero
malayo
sa
siguro.
kanila sa pag-stay nila over the night doon sa relocation site para hindi po yun mahamper ang classes namin, especially most of our evacuation centers here are classrooms.
So what's the timetable? When do you plan to make the survey of these potential evacuees who will be moved to a relocation site?
At the timetable po, depends po on the funding kasi nag-ask po kami ng 500 million for the purchase of the lot po sa national government. So hopefully it will be processed as soon as possible para ma-purchase din po yung lot.
Okay. And since you're in a state of calamity, no, kamusta naman yung funds ninyo? We know na you declare such, no, para mabilis ma-access yung emergency funds. So tell us kung sapat pa ba yung budget ninyo since unpredictable nga daw kung kailan matatapos ito.
Yes, when it comes to our funding po, it is already exhausted, especially our quick response fund, because for the year 2025, we only have 13 million. That's for the entire year already. And every single day, we spent more than millions for the food of our evacuees kasi we don't just rely on the food packs that is given by the SWD because we are afraid na baka kung palagi na lang delata or instant noodles yung kinakain nila, baka magmasakit sila. So we also make sure that they have meal plan for our evacuees, like during lunch and dinner, the LGU provides certain ingredients for their community kitchen so that they can cook it and it's healthy for them. So that's why we spend millions in each day. And right now we are relying on donations from our neighboring towns and cities as well. No? So we're thankful that they are also extending their funds for us to sustain our operations in the incident management.
And ma'am, pahuling tanong na lang po, no? Doon naman po sa kalusugan ng mga tao, I mean, the potential risks of the continued exposure to the dangerous gases, all the ash, have you also recorded any significant rise doon po sa mga health risks na mga nakatira po dyan, and what can be done to make sure they're protected?
Yes, inside our camps, there are also minor illnesses, just like a fever. There are also the challenging part is for those na may mga chickenpox as well because they need to be isolated in certain tents or transferred in a certain area kasi it can contaminate as well their fellow evacuees. But we're thankful that the Department of Health also extended their personnel para additional manpower dito, and round the clock po silang nagmo-monitor sa mga health concerns ng aming IDPs together with our city health personnel po.
So Edna Masicampo of Kanlaon City PIO, maraming salamat and we hope you do stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break, but coming up next, increasing incidents of violent bullying has prompted the Senate to look into it. Is a DepEd equipped to prevent such cases? The details from today's hearing coming up next. Keep it here.
You're still with us here on The Big Story. Are Philippine schools the world's bullying capital? Well, based on an international education study, they were for the years 2018 and 2022. And now lawmakers and educators are scrambling for ways to stop bullying incidents in and outside classrooms before they get fatal. Man Los Baños with the story.
A brawl at Bagong Silangan High School in Quezon City that involved intense hair pulling and the fatal stabbing of a student by a classmate in Moonwalk National High School in Parañaque. These are just some of the more recent violence in schools that senators find very disturbing. At Tuesday's hearing of the Committee on Basic Education, Senator Win Gatchalian sounded the alarm on the rising cases of bullying in and outside of classrooms, and these incidents are all over social media now.
parang nagiging palabas na yung bullying ngayon kasi everyone has a cellphone. No? At yung cellphone na yon ay pwede mong i-upload ka agad. Pag in-upload nila yan, hindi rin natin makokontrol yung share. Pwede lang i-share yan sa isa, pwedeng i-share yan sa 1,000,000. Pero may sugat yan o malalim na sugat hanggang sa darating pang mga panahon. So, kaya importante na itong problemang ito ma-address na natin ngayon.
According to the principal of Bagong Silangan High School, they immediately spoke to the parents of students involved in the brawl. They even tried to keep the video from reaching online platforms, but it was the aunt of the victim that uploaded it. It also turned out that this was not the first and last bullying incident.
Bakit madalas magkaroon ng bullying sa inyo? Meron ba kayong in-appoint na guidance designate?
Meron po sir sa grade 7, meron po sa grade 8, grade 9 at grade 10 sir. Meron din pong grade level in charge po sa bawat grade level.
So-called bullies are given community service. Along with their victims, these children also undergo counseling. At Moonwalk National High School, the principal says they lack guidance counselors. At the moment, the school only has a guidance designate who also doubles up as a teacher.
Tayo pa rin ang tinaguri ang pinaka-bullying capital of the world.
According to the Program for International Student Assessment or PISA, the Philippines topped several countries when it comes to bullying in schools in 2018 and 2022. Department of Education data revealed rising incidents of physical and cyberbullying, almost 80,000 from 2019 to 2022. DepEd admits their teachers cannot monitor all students, especially when they step outside classrooms. The agency is proposing a child protection committee in every school to address matters of violence among students. For Senator Gatchalian, one effective way to curb bullying is to teach good manners and right conduct or GMRC to children in grades 1 to 12. DepEd promises to make this a priority when the new school year begins. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
This is terrible.
It is terrible. Like Ces was saying, no? We're nila capital for everything bad.
Bad.
Pero hindi. Bullying, I mean, normal naman siya, I think. We can all say that.
Growing up, of course, right?
it's
We also
normal.
saw incidents of bullying, but now it has already shifted online. So, I mean, you have countries like Australia, right? They're banning social media for those
No,
under 16.
banning cell phones. No,
Social
media
media.
pala, yeah.
For under 16.
You're right.
So,
Right,
parang they
And
were-
even inside schools here, private schools or maybe even public schools, at some point, bawal yung cellphone. Nung
Dapat
nauna
rin,
nagkaroon,
oo.
nung nasa high school ako. And then, parang pagdating na sa younger sister ko, which would be around Pauline's time, parang pwede na ulit.
Ka nung unang nagka-cellphone?
Oh, high school. Second year high school, first year high school, ganyan. So, lahat kami nagtatago. Bawal yan. Pero nagkaroon ng point na parang hindi na nila pinagbabawalan yung mga bata because the parents
You're
need to
right.
be in touch with them for security and safety purposes. And then lahat may cellphone, may camera.
We should follow the example of Australia, I think. No?
But there are also two sides to it, right? You have other groups also saying then you would inhibit, I guess, the youth from
Natural.
information, like socializing as well. So I think there needs to be more studies
But
done on that.
studies have shown the damage from being in social media is far worse than the benefit.
Oo, talagang nagkakaroon ng something different in the brain, di ba? And
There-
this is like evident in brain scans.
Have you seen the comparisons of 12 years old before my generation versus 12 years old kids now, 12-year-old
Yes,
kids now?
nakakatakot eh. May mga parang areas in the brain
Right.
that are not the same color in the scans. So there's definitely
Yeah.
some impact.
So that's something to be considered. Yeah.
All right, well, meanwhile, former President Rodrigo Duterte's daughter, Veronica Kitty Duterte, motioned for the Supreme Court to hold oral arguments on petitions seeking the release of her father from ICC custody. Kitty Duterte argues the case raises novel constitutional issues, including whether or not the arrest of Mr. Duterte without prior authority from a Philippine court is acceptable. The petition also questions whether all the prior motions on the former president's custody are indeed moot and academic due to the government surrendering him to the ICC. Among the respondents indicated in the petition is Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin.
And now over in The Hague, former President Rodrigo Duterte's camp is poised to take the next step in his case in the International Criminal Court. And all the way from the Netherlands, let's hear the latest from Mon Gualvez. Mon, anong update mo?
Says former President Rodrigo Duterte's defense team or legal team said they are now better prepared to act on his case at the International Criminal Court now that its core team is complete.
As Attorney Nicholas Kaufman visited the ICC detention center, he confirmed former President Rodrigo Duterte's defense team on the crimes against humanity case in the International Criminal Court is now complete. It is comprised of 5 international lawyers, which include Kaufman himself, French lawyer Dov Jacobs, who has 15 years of experience in international law, international criminal law, and human rights. Kaufman says they also aim to have a team equipped with knowledge in information technology, especially since most court submissions will be in the form of electronic evidence.
It comprises a core team of people who've had years of experience at the International Criminal Court, years of experience handling the information technology that's required to run a defense case at that court. We get disclosed huge amounts of information through databases, and people who work in a court defense team have to have an understanding of how to use those information systems.
Attorney Kaufman did not disclose the other members of former President Duterte's defense team, but aside from the 5 international lawyers, he says 2 more Filipino lawyers are also assisting them on the case. Just as this develops, Attorney Martin Delgra arrived here in The Hague. Recall that he was among those who accompanied Digong when he was being arrested by the Philippine National Police on the basis of an ICC warrant.
Kung may kaso man, haharapin niya. Ang hindi namin na-anticipate na yung kaso palang haharapin dito sa Hague, hindi pala dun sa Pilipinas, because that is what we have been anticipating all along, na kung meron magpa-file ng kaso, haharapin. And as to whatever cases that might be filed before the DOJ, and if warranted, would be filed before the Philippine court.
Meanwhile, now that the former president's team of counsels is complete, their next step is to file the necessary motions.
Various arguments that we can make, of which the result might be that the case is dismissed. I'm not going to comment on our strategy. Regarding interim release, that's a right that every prisoner enjoys. We hope to introduce a request for interim release in due course. I'm not going to tell you about the timing of that.
That now that the defense team of former President Rodrigo Duterte is complete, who happens to be 5 international lawyers, I've asked Attorney Kaufman if will they seek legal aid from the International Criminal Court, but the lead counsel of former President Duterte refused to answer this, and he doesn't want to give any remarks or comment with regard to funding. Says.
Thank you. That was Mon Gualvez reporting to us live from the Netherlands.
We're going to pause for another quick break, but right after that, the number of unemployed Filipinos decreased in February. But why were there more hungry Filipinos last March? We'll find out the answer with Rise Against Hunger when we return. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here on The Big Story. The number of unemployed Filipinos decreased in February. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the unemployment rate fell to 3.8% or about 1.94 million jobless Filipinos. This is lower compared to 4.3% or 2.16 million unemployed Filipinos in January. Most Filipinos found jobs in sectors like accommodation and food services. Despite this, the recent Social Weather Station survey reveals that hunger remains high, with 27.2% experiencing involuntary hunger in the past 3 months. And to discuss more on how we can address these challenges, we have with us tonight Executive Director of Rise Against Hunger, Jomar Fleras. Good evening to you, Jomar, and welcome to The Big Story. Our first question, we had the DSWD spokesperson last night on the program, and the figures of the government are different from the SWS survey. Do you find with your work on the ground that the SWS survey is credible with its figures of 27.2% of Filipinos experiencing involuntary hunger?
Well, says when the survey came out, the Department of Agriculture also declared a rice emergency, a food crisis emergency. because of the rising cost of rice. As you know, we're the number one importer of rice in the world. We even outrank China, which is, I don't know exactly how many billions of people they have. We only have like a population of 115 million, and yet we outrank China. So since rice is a staple food of the Filipinos, I think that's the main cause of the hunger situation. Another thing in the field, we also noticed that the prices of vegetables actually went down, but then that actually has a very negative effect on the farmers because there's like tomatoes went down to as low as 5 pesos. They ended up throwing away tomatoes. And how can we help our farmers? Because poverty and hunger is actually in the rural areas and in the agricultural sector.
So the situation is very serious, and yet we have this government agency seemingly, I wouldn't say dismissive, but not attuned to the reality on the ground.
Well, other UN agencies say otherwise. For example, UNICEF said that 95 Filipino children die daily because of hunger and malnutrition. The UN report also said that there are about 51 million Filipinos who are food insecure. We're actually the most food insecure country in Southeast Asia. So these studies by surveys by SWS are short term. Maybe the longer term studies are done by DSWD. And sometimes it really depends on the sampling size that they do. We're more confident with the UN figures, the UN studies, and of course, what's happening in the field when you see people who are really going hungry.
So Jomar, what solutions do you propose? I mean, you've been doing this for how many decades now? Uh, Tell us
Well,
what
longer
kind of
term solution would be to address the issue of poverty because that's the main reason why people are going hungry and food insecure. That's poverty. But the solution to poverty is long term. Meanwhile, the government should also come up with programs that are on the short term basis. Like the SWD has this food stamp program, which is, I think, on its testing stage. You also have the school feeding programs, which has to be funded. Recently, we received news from the Department of Education that a lot of this food that was supposed to be served for school children were spoiled and were lost. No, sayang, because you're talking about billions of pesos that are not going to the mouths of children, where the original budget is supposed to be able to feed them. Another thing is that you have climate change, which affects the agricultural sector. I mean, like maybe mahirap tugunan yung climate change. That the government should look at establishing resilience, especially for the farmers, because the agriculture sector is the most affected by storms and climate change. About 30% of food that is produced is actually wasted, but that 30% can actually feed all hungry people. So we should strengthen the food banking systems in the Philippines. Like that's what we're doing here at Rise Against Hunger. We're looking at food banking. We're looking at trying to rescue food, surplus food, and reduce food loss, and try to channel these food donations to those who are hungry and most in need.
Jomar, one thing that was interesting when I was looking at the profile of your organization, you're right, so you have one component where you're doing kind of like what the D is doing. My food bank kayo, and people, your participants, your members can actually, stakeholders can get food from there. Another aspect is food security, where you guys try to help the families actually plant their own food, and it's specific food, kumbaga parang high nutritional yield food. Does that really work? Are families now in 2025, are they really, kumbaga, meron bang something inside them na, sige, magtatanim ako ng sariling food? Uso pa ba yun?
I think it works even in urban areas. We have a project in Taguig wherein we converted 200 square meter unused land into an urban farm. And during the pandemic, it was really opportune that they were able to use that, yields, the harvest from the small farm to at least yung makabawas ng gastos nila sa araw-araw when they have food that they can actually eat. The problem here in the agriculture sector is that most of our agricultural lands are focused in producing cash crops na hindi naman makakain. I mean, you cannot eat copra, you cannot eat coconut. I mean, maybe just one book or something, but it's not our staple food. The farmers should be able to put a portion of their land into planting vegetables that they can eat.
And Jomar, I wanted to get your thoughts on the enactment of a Food Security Act. I mean, how urgent is the need for that now more than ever?
You know, I guess we have a lot of laws that are supposed to be functioning, but the problem is kulang ng pondo. I mean, like any other law that has to be funded, that has to be scaled up, and that needs to be needs to be buy-in from the private sector. The fight against hunger is not just a fight of government. It should be the concern of the private sector, the NGOs, the religious organizations, the communities. No, dapat tulong-tulong tayo. We have a saying that it takes a village to feed a child, and that village should really be activated. It cannot just be the task of one agency.
And apart from making food accessible and available to a lot of Filipinos and families, I think we should also be talking about making it nutritious for them. So how can we ensure that food still remains nutritious for families?
The sad thing is that hindi sanay kumain ng mga vegetables yung mga bata. I think we should change that, yung eating habits of children, especially in the urban areas. Ang hirap pakainin mga bata ng mga vegetables. They'd rather eat yung mga chichirya, no? High in sodium, high in sugar, no? So we can only address nutrition if we change the eating habits of children. We also have to teach our mothers how to cook food properly and how to not overcook. Even a simple thing is not to overcook the food so that it maintains the nutrition, no? So it's a long battle, but I think we can do something about it.
Where do you see the hope? It's easy to get discouraged, especially when you go around the country and you see the dire situation of Filipinos. Where is the optimism coming from?
Well, I think optimism comes from the smile of children. No? When we ask them, ano bang impact nung pagkain sa inyo ng feeding program, and they tell you that mas masigla sila pumasok, they look forward to going to school because there's food in the school, and they're able to dream. No, there's the hope there. I think the source of hope should come from the children because we're doing this for them. We're giving them a fighting chance, and when you see that the help that we provided, the food that we provide them, nag-i-improve ang kanilang performance sa school, there's the hope there.
Do you find that the private sector are more responsive? You have big conglomerates contributing to your organization. Do you find that there's more, I guess, civil consciousness among those who have much?
During the pandemic, through Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, we formed this Zero Hunger Task Force, Filipinas Contra Gutom. So right now, that Filipinas Contra Gutom has become the Kain Tayo Pilipinas. So it's a membership organization where you have the private sector, you have the government, you have food manufacturers, you have even the church-based faith-based organizations coming in. So we're putting our heads together to be able to solve this issue of hunger.
One question, Jomar, we all heard about that big USAID cut when President Trump took office for the second time around. Natamaan ba yung organization ninyo or other organizations who do the same work as you guys? Because there are actually a lot of NGOs who are targeting hunger reduction.
That's true. Kami personally, we're not affected because we're not USAID funded. But I know of a lot of other organizations in the Philippines that have been affected because they get a lot of USAID funding. Globally, what Trump is doing is actually harming the commodities market, because USAID is also one of the major buyers of commodities in the US. So I think in the long term that will affect the prices of commodities, tomatoes, basic vegetable items, and that will have its trickle effect. I know for a fact that a lot of countries in Africa are suffering. We also provide funding to food and resources to Africa. Globally, Rise Against Hunger is doing that. And we're finding it more difficult to be able to leverage the food that we do with their programs. So we haven't seen the entire effect of what Trump is doing, but it is not very good.
Okay, and just to circle back, I'm just curious, Jomar, because of the SWS survey where, of course, involuntary hunger hit the highest since 2020, 2021 during hard lockdown. I was wondering if you agree with the results. I know Ces kind of asked this, but I'm just really curious kung paano umakyat yung level, no? Kasi from 21% in the previous survey, naging 27%. Any ideas, any kind of guess, educated guess kung saan nanggagaling ito? Because DSWD says it's the Visayas and mostly be dragging down that figure because of the protracted eruption of Mount Kanlaon.
I think yung climate change ang effect nun eh. We're just seeing the impact right now of climate change, because remember, during the last quarter of 2024, we had a series of like 6 typhoons in 1 month, no? So a lot of crops were destroyed. So ngayon pa lang natin na-feel yung impact of that, because obviously during the last quarter we had buffer crops, but now because of what happened during the last quarter series of typhoons that really affected the output of the farms, and it's only now that we're feeling that.
All right, thank you, Jomar, for the work that you do. But before you go, can you tell us how our audience can contribute to your organization?
Please visit our website, our Facebook page, Rise Against Hunger Philippines. We have volunteering opportunities there, and we need your help. Again, the task of ending hunger is everyone's concern. It's not just us and not just the government, but everyone should be part of it.
True. And even if it's not monetary, they can do volunteer work.
Yes, we accept volunteers.
Thank you very much. It was Jomar Fleras of Rise Against Hunger Philippines.
Okay, got one last story for everybody before we say goodbye. And this one goes out to all Game of Thrones fans out there. Our big picture tonight is of real-life direwolves. Scientists over at Colossal Biosciences have claimed to have successfully brought back the species after it went extinct over 10,000 years ago. Using DNA from a fossilized direwolf tooth and skull, they identified differences and similarities with the modern gray wolf. Through gene editing, they managed to create 3 puppies. The first 2 male direwolves, Romulus and Remus, are already 6 months old, while the female pup, Khaleesi, is just 3 months old. This is part of their de-extinction program, where they plan on resurrecting lost species. The puppies are now being monitored in a secure facility.
No
I
more
want a
banter.
direwolf.
Now I want a direwolf.
I knew it.
I think Ces wants a direwolf.
I'm more for foxes.
Fox out.
Wow.
I think we know why. All right, that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Good night.